Joining us right now is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten. Randi, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's always great to be with you.
You have also taken to Twitter yourself to defend Chuck Jones.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
So, Chuck Jones, myself, we all tweeted when the carrier deal was announced. Great, fantastic, to keep the jobs. But Chuck is the union leader there. And 350 people who thought their jobs were kept were not. And so he said, look, we need to keep all these jobs. And frankly, for the president-elect to go after him when he just clarified what had happened is wrong.
Yeah. Well, putting aside the fact that he did go after him on Twitter, I mean, you can debate whether or not the president-elect should be, like, calling people out on Twitter.
Exactly.
For sure. But the broad scheme of unions, whether it's for teachers, whether it's for steelworkers, I mean, is it part of the issue, the problem? I mean, when you consider the fact that tenure is more important than the actual performance of teachers.
That's actually not true, but let's just go back to even the steelworker issue. Chuck Jones is the guy, like Mike Pence.
Why is tenure not more important? Why is that not true?
Because at the end of the day, performance is more important than anything.
Right. And so how come teachers have their job for a lifetime,
but they
even when they've done a terrible job?
Okay, we've had this conversation a lot. Frankly, in lots of school districts right now, take New York City. New York City, under the current negotiated rules between, frankly, Mike Mulgrew, the UFT president, and Bill de Blasio, more people have actually been terminated than ever before. There is a process. There should be fairness. That's what we call for. It's not a job for life. And when we end up having these kind of conversations, which are evidence-free, what happens is it disserves both parents and teachers. If a teacher can't teach, she shouldn't be there, but she should be treated fairly. What happened in Carrier, though, is that Chuck Jones, the guy who the president demonized on Twitter, is the one who raised the issue. He's the one who's been fighting for jobs in America. Yeah. And so that's why we have stood up for him and said, don't, take it out on the guy who's actually been fighting to keep the jobs here.
I can't believe how many people are trying to find a negative in the Carrier story. This is a positive story.
Right, but nobody,
jobs in America.
But Maria, nobody put a negative out there until the president actually
Chuck Jones did. Chuck Jones did.
Well, what he did was his members who thought that they had their jobs. 350 of them think they have their jobs, and then they're told by Carrier after the president-elect leaves that they don't. And so, of course, he's going to be upset. But just be honest about it. Look, when Chuck Schumer and Governor Cuomo kept the Alcoa jobs in Messina for the same kind of deal, we didn't call it crony capitalism. We celebrated it. We want jobs in America. We want manufacturing jobs.
But you're not celebrating the jobs that he's keeping in America at Carrier.
Of course we are. But what we said was, don't go after the union leader who's been the one who's been championing this well before you have.
Right, but the union leader is the one who went after Trump. He started it. Chuck Jones did.
The union leader heard from his members and Carrier said that he was right, that 350, the president-elect said 1,100 jobs were kept.
But don't you feel like you're picking hairs? I mean, there are jobs that are not going to Mexico that were going to Mexico.
I agree, but when you have 350 people who come to you afterwards and say, wait a second, I'm now going to be fired, that's a bad thing. All I'm saying is that's what he did. And so don't go on Twitter to demean him or defame him.
So one thing, Randi, if you look at the steel sector as a whole, it's been under tremendous pressure over the last few years. You look at a company like United States Steel, for instance, that stock price is up 78% in the last month because of a lot of deregulation. So I think what President-elect Trump is trying to do is just take some regulation off the industry as a whole, focus on U.S. jobs and U.S. industry, and I think if you look at how the performance is in the markets or how you price the company, it's clearly working. You don't typically see 78% moves in a month in large companies.
So we've invested our pension funds in trying to rebuild America, in trying to rebuild manufacturing. My union is down in McDowell County, West Virginia, trying to get coal jobs back. We're up in Messina, New York, trying to get steel jobs back and aluminum jobs back. We want jobs in America, manufacturing jobs in America. I don't think you can discount the president's record on this stuff. I heard, you know, I love when the stock market goes up, but also President Obama inherited a stock market that was about 8,000. But we're rooting for more jobs in America.